Members, this is the appointed time and we have a quorum. The Secretariat has not received or issued any papers since the last meeting, so let me move on to the next item. Let's invite the government and the URA representatives into a room first. If you will have questions, please press the button. Let me welcome the representatives from the administration and the Urban Renewal Authority. I'm not going to go through the attendance lists. I'll just pass the floor to Secretary for Development to brief us on innovative measures to expedite urban renewal in the CE's Policy Address 2025, and I'll also invite the Chair of the URA to brief us on the 2024-25 Progress Report as well as the Business Plan for 2025 and 26. Thank you, Chair. Along with my team and the team of the Urban Renewal Authority, we brief the Legislative Council panel every year on the work of the URA in the past year, as well as the future work plan. You will find the annual report in the annex of the paper. It's for members' reference, and today I'd like to brief members along with Chair of the URA in relation to our partnership with the Urban Renewal Authority, as well as the policy initiatives in the policy address this year in promoting or expediting urban renewal. So I'd also like to seek members' views in this regard. Now, urban renewal has always been our major priority. I thank the URA and for taking forward the two core business of the authority in an integrated manner, and that's redevelopment and rehabilitation, in order to tackle the problem of urban decay. The government will continue to give its full support to the URA in redeveloping urban districts. The government will also continue to support the URA to make sure that sufficient resources are allocated for fulfilling its mission. Apart from $10 billion injected early years, as well as waiving the land premium for urban renewal projects over the years, which is the administrative means. This year, the CE Council approved in May the granting of two sites at Bailey Street, Hong Kong, and Chung Kwan O Area 137, respectively, without premium paid, in order to support the cash position of the URA. Another measure is that in August this year, we raised the borrowing limit of the URA from $25 billion to $35 billion, so that the URA can meet its future financing demand through external financing arrangements. Now, with the government's support, the URA is now expediting the pace of acquisition of titles for urban renewal projects. The URA will also take forward in an orderly manner a number of projects. And what is important is that the URA will join hands with the government in reviewing the operation of the authority as well as the financing model, so that the URA can take forward urban renewal in a financially sustainable and viable manner. We will complete this review within next year, when the URA will formulate specific recommendations. Now, to tackle urban decay in Hong Kong, we cannot only rely on the URA, and that is why in this year's policy address, the Chief Executive has proposed some innovative measures. We will grasp the opportunities presented by new land development in taking forward urban renewal. There are three major measures. The first is that in NDAs in Kutong North and Fanning North, 3 sites will be reserved in the northern metropolis for URA to consider building new flats as replacement flats under the new flat-for-flat scheme. These flats will also serve as an option for cash compensation to affected owners. Now, the URA is now reviewing the operation model and the 3 sites reserved with the government. The relevant measures will be rolled out next year. The next measure is about transfer of plot ratio within the same district. It was implemented in July 2023, and it only applied to private redevelopment projects. Now, in fact, transfer of plot ratio at the moment is only allowed in some designated districts. Cross-district transfer is not allowed. Our proposal is to relax the rule so that plot ratio can be transferred across districts. Now, in the first year of implementation, we will start with the 7 designated areas covered by the compulsory auction measure. After 1 year, we seek to extend this measure to cover other areas. That means apart from Yau Chim Mong, we will further extend the option to all over Hong Kong so that receiving sites can be designated in different districts, and we're also going to lift the restriction so as to increase planning gains for private developers as well as URA-initiated projects. The third one is to suitably increase the plot ratio of private redevelopment projects by, say, 20% as a maximum level. So we're giving away 20% of extra plot ratio to increase the incentive in order to unleash the potential for the aged buildings and expedite the redevelopment in the 7 designated areas. We also allow an encashment option, and that means for the increased plot ratio, after being translated into land premium, can be used for offsetting the premium payable for bidding land or land modification in other projects, such as those in the northern metropolis. Now, let me go through the timetable. In relation to the transfer of plot ratio and additional plot ratio for private redevelopment projects, we seek to consult relevant stakeholders within the end of the year with a view to implementing and finalizing this proposal in the first half of next year. As for the first measure, and that's about the reservation of 3 sites, now we are conducting a comprehensive review on the operation and financing model of the URA at the moment. So this will be incorporated in the review exercise, and proposal will be floated within next year. I'll give the floor to Sir Chow. Thank you, Chairman, members. I'd like to brief members on the progress report of URA 2024-25. Because of global market fluctuations, Hong Kong's economy has been affected, and that also affected the pace of recovery of the housing market in Hong Kong. The developers tended to be prudent in bidding for projects in the last financial year. We started a tendering exercise for Kai-Tak Sharpo Road project in Kowloon City. We received only 1 bid, and the tender was aborted because the bid did not meet the requirement. As at the end of the financial period dated 31st of March 2025, we still recorded accumulated loss, operating loss of $41 million. And we also had to set aside a commitment of 2.68 billion, and the net loss for the year was therefore $2.72 billion. At the end of the financial year, as far as the total liquidity position was concerned, we recorded a net flow of $21.2 billion and net asset value of $43.6 billion. So our financial position has remained robust despite the challenges. We implemented multi-pronged measures to cope with them. Relating to the Lokshan Road project completed in August, we were able to make use of the adjacent site to increase synergy. We improved the living environment. We also improved accessibility and enhanced the pedestrian environment. Now, as for the Kowloon City Chinwai Carpenter Road, as well as the other major projects, we already issued acquisition offers to owners, involving a total acquisition sum of $18 billion. In August, on Hong Kong Island, we had the other site in Queens Road West, as well as the To Kwa Wan project. And we also issued acquisition offers to the so-called 5 street projects totaling about $9 billion. And we will have regard to our financial position and continue to take forward other urban renewal projects. Through the issuance of bonds, we raised funds in the last financial year. The government also approved increasing the borrowing limit of the URA from $25 billion to $35 billion. That has provided greater flexibility to us. In the last year, we also sold some residential units and commercial properties in non-core business areas to increase cash flow, and we also we've also introduced a new planning tool to enhance the appeal of projects. We will continue to ensure robustness of our financial position and continue to take forward urban renewal projects. We have a serious aging problem of building stocks in Hong Kong. The number of buildings aged 50 or above increases by 500 per year. The redevelopment projects in the private sector cannot keep up with the pace of aging, and that is why we must take a dual-pronged approach in taking forward redevelopment as well as rehabilitation. And we need to maintain and repair buildings properly in order to ensure good living environment. Now, it is the owner's responsibility to ensure proper building management, and we have strived to provide facilitation and support. In relation to 5 subsidy programs relating to rehabilitation, we received 29,000 valid applications, and together with the total subsidy of $1.9 billion in total, 9,300 buildings have undergone repair and rehabilitation so far, covering 920,000 households. We will further help owners fulfill their responsibility by building financial reserve to cope with maintenance expenses. In the coming years, we will continue to face various challenges, especially because of external uncertainties. I thank the government for granting 2 sites in Hong Ham and Cheung Kwan O Area 137 for us to take forward urban renewal. I also thank the Chief Executive's policy initiatives in the policy address. We will conduct a holistic review with the government on the 7-year rule so that we can continue to take forward the task of urban renewal and optimize the use of social resources. The review will be completed in 2025. Specific recommendations will be made to the government. Urban decay is an issue we must face and tackle. We will continue to exercise innovation and vision, and we will optimize the use of resources in a prudent manner so that we can continue to take forward urban renewal in an orderly manner.
Thanks very much, Chairman Chow. It's time for questions. There are 11 members on the list. Mr. Kisson Young, Mr. Chen Hao-fong, Mr. Edward Lau, Mr. Ambrose Lam, Mr. Ben Chen, Mr. Perry Yu, Dr. Wendy Hong, Mr. Andrew Lam, Mrs. Regina Ip, and Mr. Bill Tang. 11 members for the time being. 4 minutes each, please. Mr. Kissen Yang. Chairman, thank you. I'm grateful to the URA for taking forward the redevelopment. There are 21 sites there, and the 5 streets are about to get started, and there are going to be 13 street project. The URA has been working very hard. There are so many old areas that need redevelopment, like the 13th Street. It would involve considerable financial resources. Now, 13 streets will be taken forward in the form of comprehensive development. And in 13 streets, there are 300 units. I'm sure that neither the private sector nor the URA will be able to cope with that. Instead of having CDA, can we have this split up into smaller units to lure more individual entities? Second, in terms of financial arrangement, the government is very supportive. Bailey Street is awarded to the URA at nominal land premium. In the long run, I'm wondering whether we should change the model. In the redevelopment sites, the URA would acquire the land and then bring in the developers. Can we, at the outset, the URA and the developers can come in together? That would reduce the amount of capital involvement. It would reduce the chances of the project falling through. Like Chairman said, there is a site in Kowloon City. The tender was withdrawn. If the URA and the developer were to come in at the outset, the project falling by the wayside would be minimized and risks will be spread. Finally, I'd like to heap praise on the administration. The transfer of GFA is a really marvelous idea. This is accelerating the pace of urban redevelopment. So in terms of urban renewal, I'll just show you this photo. This is a 3-story building site. Nobody would ever consider redeveloping this kind of site. Now, with the transfer of the GFA, it would transfer of a plot ratio. It would offer better chance than this 3-0 building. If the transfer of plot ratio will be allowed, then this can be turned into a sitting out area, and this will offer more opportunities for redevelopment in the district. Otherwise, this kind of redevelopment will never see the light of the day. After acquisition of this site, I think, let's say there is a PR line that is unutilized, so the unutilized plot ratio can be transferred to multiple sites. That kind of flexibility will allow the developers and the URA to flexibly handle these kind of sites. Thank you. Secretary? I address the first and third question, and for the second question, whether the URA will be joining hands with the developers at the beginning, I defer to the URA. First, 13th Street, this is CDA in the plan. Will we consider changing the zoning, or will we be breaking down the site into smaller units? We don't honestly have this intention for the time being, because when we rezone a site, it would require resources and time to conduct studies. We have put forward some measures like the transfer of plot ratio. Now, for the 13th Street project, what implications would that have on that project? We're not sure yet. We'd like to see how it goes, and then we approach the issue at that point instead of tinkering around the edges at this point in time. Now, for the other question, I'm grateful to the member for supporting this transfer of plot ratio idea. This is a big move. The site that you referred to, a couple of stories, there is the unutilized plot ratio that can be transferred. In the 7 designated districts, we would be offering the bonus plot ratio of 20%. And on top of that, in the paper, there is a mention of one point. This is the execution details. Now, in this redevelopment site, if this is going to be turned into a sitting out area, then the plot ratio will go elsewhere. In this sitting out area, there is still a bit of plot ratio in existence that will allow them to keep the plot ratio, and this would be offered as a kind of incentive. Now, for these sending sites, if there is heritage that needs to be preserved, other than allowing the transfer of plot ratio, the existing plot ratio there will also be allowed to be kept. So this is a more liberal approach. Yes, Mr. Donald Choi, Managing Director. Thank you very much, Mr. Yang, for the suggestion. Now, inviting the developer to come in earlier is well worth considering. Indeed, the URA would very much like to take forward urban redevelopment to achieve urban renewal and urban rejuvenation to improve the livability of a district. Now, going in together with the developer, there are a number of factors to be considered, like we need to consider the suitable developer, and there are still uncertainties about the project, and the developer might consider this element as to whether they would like to join at the beginning. Well, 6 minutes already. Please make it brief, Mr. Choi. We welcome this idea. We will consider this to see what can be done about it. All right, please make it brief when you put questions and also when you answer the questions. We also have Ms. Starry Lee joining at the back of the queue. And we're supposed to be here until 9:30 for this item. Maybe we have to extend this a little bit. We have other item to contend with. Mr. Chen Ho-fong, Chairman, by declaration, I am an NED of the URA. Now, with regard to the redevelopment, I think it is high time we conducted a review. And we seem to be focusing our attention on the 7-year rule. Now, the 7-year rule has been with us for so long. There must be a reason, and it is not easy to change it. And I'm sure that that would impose some financial constraint on the URA. I am wondering whether we can consider alternative ways to achieve the compensation or for more of a choice to the people. A flat for flat idea, we're locking in the price. Can we make available a flat to the affected people? Now, some sites have been given to the URA. Now, can we, in the urban area or extend urban area, allow people to trade up? One food can be exchanged for 1.2 or 1.3. This will allow more choices. Now, in the acquisition, whatever orientation, whatever view, you're offering the same price. But for the private sector units, different floors, different orientation would fetch at different prices. So can we reflect this in the acquisition to speed up the process? There are other issues. You offer them the compensation. They have to buy another flat. Are you going to be working with the housing society, and you offer other packages like medical services and so on, and this can be deducted off from the flat price so that they can stay there with ease. So I think I don't think we should focus our attention on the 7-year rule alone. Second, we have more and more old buildings, and the renovation or rehabilitation is very slow. Is there any way to speed up the rehabilitation? The URA can play more of a role, a bigger role, like as an agent. The Secretary said that it would be difficult. Can we allow the URA to become the agent? The URA can coordinate all the whole process, the whole acquisition. The residents, the landlords simply don't have the professional knowledge. So can we review this kind of this side of the equation? Secretary, the 7-year rule, as the member said, that this is a very liberal when we apply the 7-year rule in acquiring a building of 50 years old or older. It was liberal for some reason. The reason was to activate the urban renewal as soon as possible. But over the years, we can see that new issues begin to emerge. That is, we tend to buy high and sell low. Now, because of this generosity in the private market, this would become an impediment in the acquisition. So we are proposing a whole review of the acquisition and compensation mechanism. Now, we're not merely reviewing the 7-year rule. We have to review the entire package. Like the member said, flat for flat scheme, should there be some fine-tuning to offer cash compensation or flat for flat as options? As to repair and maintenance or rehabilitation, the URA has been doing a lot. Now, in terms of tender, if the landlords have taken part in OBB and they are not calling tender, the URA would be dealing with the tender. All they need to do, all the landlords need to do would be to sign on the dotted line. Now, the members suggested that the URA can become the coordinator. There is a risk of the landlords shirking their responsibility, but we are prepared to, in the context of the review, cope with or deal with this particular issue as well, instead of just looking at the acquisition and compensation. No follow-up? Mr. Edward Lau? Chairman, thank you. I echo the sentiment that the URA has come up with lots of new ideas. I'm sure that would accelerate the process. All these tools are really market-oriented, and there would be financial incentives for the developers to take part in the process. I've got 3 questions here, if I may. First, compensation. I think this should be reviewed, that the 7-year rule has been with us for some considerable time. I've taken part in some redevelopment in the NT, and the compensation offer is so much more generous. In the NT, the acquisition is not large in the number, but there is a compensation package. They have the replacement price plus the allowance for acquiring new flat. I'm sure that the Secretary is very familiar with this. By comparison with the 7-year rule adopted by the URA, it is really a difference of day and night. The URA has been offering generous package, but I'm wondering whether this would be achievable. I'm wondering whether this would take forward to the redevelopment.
Second point. Now you have new initiatives for the flat for flat scheme as well as sites reserved. And I think there is another option. Some owners may wish to apply for the flat for flat scheme in the future. The URA can then make use of its flats as transition for them, and the government can be the guarantor so that with the help of owners, with the help of banks, owners can take forward a redevelopment proposal on their own, and then they can move back to the new development later. So this is one way of promoting collaboration between the URA and the private developer as well as the owners. So that's another alternative for you to consider. Instead of a flat-for-flat scheme, you can also apply another tool. The third point is about comprehensive development area. I fully agree with the Secretary that there are tools available. But again, I have this suggestion. For the 13 streets, the area has been set to CDA for quite some time, and according to the Town Planning Board ordinance, a review should be conducted once every 2 years to gauge the need of this CDA. And we can also relax the rule and allow a developer to apply for a Section 12, to make a Section 12 application. Because at the moment, if it is planned to be a CDA, then no Section 12 application will be entertained. So the other suggestion is for phase development. It's for URA's consideration. Secretary. Well, I thank the member for the comments. This will help us in the review. Now, I'd also like to respond to the suggestion made by members, and that is redevelopment and allowing owners to move back to the new development. And this is the approach taken in the mainland in recent years. And that is what existing owners can take part in the redevelopment process with the subsidy or assistance of the government. And then owners will need to pay for a certain portion of the redevelopment on the premise that they will be allowed to move back after redevelopment. But that involves requiring owners to pay for the investment, and we will not exclude this possibility. And we'll give it a thought. Mr. Ambrose Lam. Now I'm concerned about shops with characteristics in Kowloon City. As you know, we have a lot of Thai shops or shops with Chu Chow characteristics in Kowloon City. Now, many shops in recent years have decided to end the business due to various reasons. Some owners have become quite old. They cannot find a successor, and there are also some shops that are forced to close down because of insufficient compensation for them to move elsewhere and continue with their business. Now, some shops may need a bigger space, such as a dried seafood shop or grocery store. Now, if they are willing to be relocated in the future, will they be given a shop space of a similar size? The next point is about providing a relocation allowance to these shops with characteristics. I'd like the URA to give us more information. And will the URA consider giving support to these shops for them to move back in the area in the future? I think Mr. Choi has ample experience in this regard. I will ask him to respond to this question. We want to keep the characteristics of Kowloon City, and that is why we strive to invite these shops to move back after redevelopment in order to maintain this ambience in the neighborhood. As for Chu Thai culture in Kowloon City, after we rolled out the project in 2022, we have been receiving feedback from local residents, and we are going to provide a number of subsidies to them, such as a concession or such as concessionary rent for 5 years. Next, Mr. Ben Chen. Thank you, Chair. I really appreciate the government for putting forward initiatives relating to urban renewal, as well as new arrangements for the URA in the policy address. Now, tackling urban decay is a major task for the government. Many local residents have waited for many years, such as the 7 streets in Chunwan. Now, in the past, there was no incentive because of the plot ratio being exhausted. Now, with additional plot ratio given to interested developers, these projects will become commercially appealing. But my question is this: will additional plot ratio be given on the basis of the existing plot ratio, or will the government first allow additional plot ratio be given, and for the additional plot ratio to be incorporated in the redevelopment project? I want to make it clear, because if it's based on the existing plot ratio, then even if you add 20% to that, it will still be faring less well than the redevelopment potential in Yau Chun Mong or other districts. Now, the next point is about the URA, and I support any initiative that can enhance quantity and speed of redevelopment. According to the paper, our building stock has been aging very rapidly, much faster than the pace of redevelopment. So we need to catch up, or otherwise the building stock will continue to age. So we need to come up with different policy measures, one of which is, of course, the flat for flat scheme. The government has proposed reserving sites in the northern metropolis. However, these sites are quite far away from the existing urban districts. You need to provide an incentive for people to move there, especially those who used to live in urban districts. So for the arrangement, we need to include an incentive, for example, replacement at the ratio of 1 to 1.5, so that if people get a bigger flat or have an extra flat, they'll be able to spend their retirement there. And this can help expedite redevelopment. That's all from me. Secretary. Thank you, Chairman. Now, about the 20% additional plot ratio given to private developers, the way we do the calculation is that we base we use the plot ratio set out in the building plan submitted along with the application as the basis. So say the plot ratio for that site is 5. So on this basis, 20% of that will be given in addition. As for the flat for flat arrangement, I do agree with the member that we have reserved sites in the northern metropolis and Shun Kwan O area 137, but these are new development areas, so the arrangement is not the same as what has been offered by the URA. That is flats built in the same urban districts. So we need to provide additional incentives in the form of, say, a bigger flat or a lower price. And this is something that we will include in our review with the URA. Mr. Parry, thank you, Chairman. The government has proposed innovative measures with a new mindset to expedite urban renewal. I support that. The purpose of urban renewal is to improve the living environment for the public so that Hong Kong will be more livable. Now, there are also measures that support the development of the tourism sector. The URA redevelopment projects include a number of revitalization projects. I really appreciate those. These are very successful. One of the objectives of the URA is to revitalize and conserve natural heritage or monuments. Now, like Mr. Ambrose Lam said, on top of those, I'm concerned about keeping old shops with characteristics in the district. I hope this can be done. The next point is about the Victoria Cove Bay study, or this Victoria Cove area study. Now, I support the study in theory because for the Kai Tak precinct, the positioning is one of cultural, sports, and tourism hub. I believe synergizing the development of Victoria Cove Bay area with Kai Tak will further enhance the gain, and this can also help improve the environment in To Kwa Wan and Kowloon City in general. Recently, we have been discussing the berthing of barges along the waterfront of the Kai Tak Sports Park main stadium. It does not seem to be compatible with the area anymore. We need to come up with a proposal to relocate the berths for barges so that the waters of Kai Tak Sports Park can be given a better use. Secretary, thank you, Chair. Well, I think this is a government-led matter, and whether we should continue to allow this facility to be there. We will complete this review with the URA first before deciding on this matter. I'd say that this is not an easy task because there is a need for this facility to be there to support the economic activities. But does it tally with the long-term vision of Kai Tak? As I said, now the Victoria Cove area study is underway, and perhaps Mr. Choi can tell you more about the scope of this study. The Victoria Harbour presents a very important resource for our city, and we'd like to make recommendations on better planning for the near shore as well as the water body in the area so as to generate greater value. Now, we have invited various government bureaus and departments to join us, such as the CST Bureau, Marine Department, Energizing Kowloon East Office, and the LCSD. We are in close liaison in drawing up a plan with a vision. Our plan is that a preliminary report will be ready by early 2026. Next, Dr. Wendy Hong. Now we're discussing new policy initiatives on expediting urban renewal. They entail a number of relaxation measures. I welcome them. I have 3 questions. The first one is about review on the 7-year rule. Well, as I made this point to the government earlier, according to the complaints I received from the 13 streets, residents in the 13 streets in To Kwa Wan, they are willing to accept compensation on the basis of 10-year or even 7-year development in order to strive for early redevelopment. However, this request has not been acceded to. So my next question is, how will the government review the arrangement about compensation? What if owners take the initiative in proposing the accepting flats of of 10 or 15 years? Will they be given priority? Will another queue be set up for this purpose? The second point is about the flat for flat arrangements for now for the e-residence project, the flat for flat scheme. Is it possible to extend the HOS to cover those eligible under the flat for flat scheme? Will there be dedicated rehousing estates in new development areas to help affected owners move out of their properties? About the 3 sites reserved for flat arrangement, may I know more about the definition? Are these flats going to be rehousing estates or HOS? Another point is about the transfer of plot ratio. This will be extended to cover all districts in Hong Kong, and then there is also the encashment option for offsetting land premium. These are innovative measures. Now I have this suggestion. For unutilized plot ratio, can we introduce plot ratio credit for trading and exchange in a market that can cover all eligible projects in Hong Kong, and that it could be traded on a 1-to-1 ratio or even more, so as to provide flexibility in expediting urban renewal. This is a rather bold idea.
Secretary? Let me take this in reverse order. I note the proposal made by Dr. Wendy Hong, the plot ratio credit. We haven't gone as far as that. The plot ratio transfer proposal, there is still a lot of details to be sorted out. We don't really want to go back to the era of letters A and B. Now, with this exchange instrument, we are worried about speculation. I've taken note of your point. However, we don't have any intention for the time being of going down this path. Second, about the 7-year rule, the review exercise of that. Do we allow a situation where we would deal with the cases on a case-by-case basis? We will have a look at this, but basically the policy remains policy. We don't really want to have a lot of exceptional circumstances. As to flat for flat proposal, simply put, we're dealing with the private flats for urban redevelopment, whether by the URA or the private market. We are talking about private flats. As a means of compensation, we are talking about private sector flats. Now, for the public housing, whether it is HOS or the GSH, we don't really want to confuse the market with these public sector flats. Now, of course, they do have their own system to deal with that. Mr. Andrew Lam, Vice Chair, please. Chairman, I remember when I first assumed the membership, I said that the compensation mechanism has to be revisited. I thought I was not going to be able to see this happen, but I'm glad that this is happening. There are only 2 points I'd like to make here for flat for flat scheme and also the cash compensation. other than the financial difference, the people will look at the finance of the flats, also the finance of the compensation offer, and also there is a time difference between the two. I'm sure if they offered the existing flats, they would certainly would be helpful. The cross-district transfer of plot ratio is a good idea. That is not imposing additional burden on the finance, and on this condition, it is a good idea to accelerate the process of urban renewal. I understand that we did have a lot of experience before. As the Secretary said, we don't really want to see speculation happening. Now, for many medium or small, medium-sized developers, they may not be able to do that. Would that stifle the original intent of the scheme? So I hope that the administration would think this through. Now, for this scheme, I hope that the administration and the URA would look at the potential redevelopment and how many buildings are going to be standing to benefit from this. Finally, I hope the URA would tell us this. We are conducting a review, and I am optimistic. If we don't change anything at all, I would be very pessimistic. So do you have the optimistic scenario and the pessimistic scenario, and how the two scenarios affect the work of the URA going forward? Secretary, I defer to the MD for the last question. Now, on the question of flat-for-flat exchange, one of the factors that caused the failure is the time difference, and we would pay particular attention to that in our review with the URA. It is precisely because of this that we have made available some sites to the URA. I didn't emphasize this at the beginning, but this is a very important point, and that is the plot ratio transfer measure will not impose an additional financial burden on the government. We are facilitating the process. The government doesn't have to shell out any money for this. The additional plot ratio, and we are allowing them to convert this into a monetary value to offset the premium. The government doesn't have to shell out any money because we don't really want to impose any burden financially on the government. The member talked about the small and medium-sized developers, that they are taking part in the urban renewal. Typically, not just the large developers. We have small, medium-sized developers taking part. Now, for the transfer of a plot ratio, the plot ratio can be transferred to other sites, and they have to be sites under the management of the same developer. Maybe the small developers may not be involved in the NDAs so much, but we allow them to join hands with other developers in the exercise. They don't have to do this single-handedly. So we're allowing the market or different stakeholders to take part in different ways, and this would stimulate the development there. Mr. Choi, Chairman, if things remain unchanged, then the URA's work will not be sustainable. And this will slow down the urban renewal. This will also affect the participation of the private market. And it would be difficult for the private developers to be involved. So we ought to come up with alternative measures to fully utilize the public resources and to accelerate the pace of urban renewal. Mrs. Regina Ip. Chairman, there are measures to accelerate urban renewal, increasing the plot ratio and cross-district transfer of plot ratio. They are under control, but flat for flat would be difficult to implement. The only success was in 2005. Lai Sing Lau was acquired by Hong Kong Land. This has become Serenade now, and it took them years and years to negotiate with the landlords, and the landlords now stood to benefit from that, and they've been moved back to a Serenade now. Now, flat for flat, it would be difficult for one flat to be exchanged for two. The many complaints coming through indicate that the elderly people don't really want to move across districts. If you ask them to move from Wan Chai to the north, it would be easier for young people. So flat for flat is a difficult thing to achieve. Now we talk about 7-year rule, and you have to offer compensation to the landlords. Now this policy was introduced by Mrs. Carrie Lam in her capacity as Secretary for Development. The property prices were shooting up, and now we have the 7-year rule, and the URA is offering legal advice. Can you implement the compulsory sale? Now, if private developers were to be involved, they have to go through the land tribunal. It's not as simple as saying bringing in the developers. Mr. Choi has said already that it is really one thing to propose this, but another thing to bring in the developer. Now, for the 7-year rule, the property prices were high. Now there has been a downturn. Will this be sustainable? So this proposal to accelerate the urban renewal is worth supporting, but I think we have to consider all these other elements. Also, we have to consider the priority, and like Mr. Ambrose Lam and Mr. Andrew Lam, Mr. Perry Yu said, we have to keep the character of the old districts, and we have to strike a balance between accelerated urban renewal and the interests of the landlords. Other things, they are under your control, but not so much flat for flat proposal. Secretary, yes, we fully appreciate that with flat for flat exchange, in particular when we're talking about new districts, it would be rather challenging for the residents, not least the elderly people. So in our review exercise, we will not be simply focusing on the flat for flat scheme. The incentive of this scheme is quite another matter altogether. The other thing is the cash compensation. So when we start this flat for flat scheme, we still have to conduct a review, and let's call this the new flat for flat scheme. In the NDA, we have reserved some development land because honestly, in the old urban area, we're running out of site. Now, when it is up and running, when we have more sites for redevelopment, we do not rule out the possibility of achieving flat for flat arrangement. So all these will be taken into account in our review exercise. Thank you, Mr. Bill Tank. Chairman, thank you. Now, this is really a hard nut to crack. It is indeed a challenging issue. The URA is achieving urban rejuvenation, urban renewal. It is also implementing a lot of policies that have to do with the aspirations of the public. And there is a lot of outlay, which is recurrent outlay that may not have to do with the urban or the redevelopment. Now, given the current situation, given that everything being equal, Has the URA been sitting down with the administration about the 7-year rule? What is the implications on the public expenditure? Can you quantify that, or is it really sustainable? How much more capital injection would be required, and how much longer for this to be happening?
The second point. In the past, there was an expectation among the public that a flat in the urban district would definitely increase in price in the future. How do we address this misconception for owners in Kowloon City or other old districts? Because for owners living in a flat of a building age 50 or above, or even 70, the value actually depreciates because of the maintenance costs. So how do you explain this reality to the public in order to gain the acceptance and help you with the reform? Secretary, Chair, about the 7-year rule, I'll give the floor to the URA to explain that. And to answer the second question, as I understand, old building owners are reluctant to accept the compensation offer because, as I understand, they want the URA to step in and that they would get a better compensation under the 7-year rule. The other reason is that these owners believe there is still time, and that is why we will complete the review of the buildings ordinance by the first half of next year, and then we will come back and report to this council. After conducting the last round of consultation, we have decided to take forward legislative amendments, and this will be a major exercise for us. For building owners who are responsible for building maintenance, and if they are not willing to participate, or if they do not have the means to take part in building maintenance, we have no option but to have the place redeveloped. And this is a responsibility they must not avoid. And we are going to amend the law in this regard. And we're going to explain the proposal to LegCo next year. Mr. Choi, in fact, we have been experiencing losses for 3 consecutive years. This year, we registered a loss of 2.7 billion. Now, as for the net assets, we're sitting on some $40 billion, and that means we, together with the projects we are already committed to, without any change in the existing policies, in the short term, say 5 or 10 years, will be exhausting our resources. Ms. Chen Yutming and Mr. Ma Fung Kwok have indicated their wish to speak, and Mr. Ambrose Lam would like to go for a second round. So, if no one else would like to ask a question for the second round, I will allow you to have a go. But I need to draw a line here. Dr. Starry Lee. Thank you, Chair. I support expediting urban renewal with a new mindset. Now, the urban decay problem is going to get worse, and there will be a greater demand and expectation for urban rejuvenation. We need a new mindset about the strategies adopted by URA, and I see new measures proposed. For example, in the paper, it said that 3 sites in Kutong North and Fanting North NDAs will be reserved in the northern metropolis, and also the new flat-for-flat scheme will be put in place. And on behalf of the local residents in 13 streets, I need to explain this to the administration. Now, because of various reasons, they haven't been able to take forward the redevelopment project. They are aware of this electrical discussion. They have high hopes. They invite the Secretary and Chair of the URA to reconsider their aspiration, and they hope that you explore new ways of kickstarting the redevelopment project again. And that's the message I received when I last met with their representatives. So if you want to have an innovative approach to redevelopment, you can introduce a pilot in 13 streets. Now, because of the private developments in 13 streets, it's very difficult to rely on private sector's participation in the redevelopment of the 13 streets. So there is a need to grasp this opportunity. I hope the Secretary and the URA Chair will give priority to the consideration of this project. Next, about rehabilitation work of the URA. Again, we need to adopt a new mindset. Of course, we need to expedite urban redevelopment in order to catch up with the pace of aging of our building stock. Rehabilitation is another important tool. The government should consider further injections in the Operation Building Bright. Without sufficient funding, it will be very difficult to promote proper building management. However, we need to strike a balance. We need to ensure that our APs and contractors will do their job properly to ensure quality of the building maintenance work, and that there won't be problems such as exorbitant price as well as bid rigging. A regular review is, of course, necessary. This is an important aspect of urban renewal. Apart from redevelopment, rehabilitation is also very important. Right, very briefly, any response from the Secretary? Well, I think the member is very concerned about the 13 streets. This is a sensitive issue. I'm not going to say more on that as to when this project will be kickstarted by the URA. Let me just say that the policy measures proposed, be it the review or compensation arrangements, transfer of plot ratio across districts, they will help the URA better perform its functions. As for building maintenance, as well as the Operation Building Bright, and when another injection is needed, this is of course another issue close to our heart. Ms. Chen Yut-ming, I support adopting a new mindset in taking forward urban renewal, that urban redevelopment projects should be considered along with the Northern Metropolis development. This can also help expedite the development of the Northern Metropolis as well. About reserving sites in the NM for the flat-for-flat scheme, I have 2 questions. I support the study conducted by the government as to whether the mainland or Singapore flat-for-flat approach can be applied in Hong Kong. I think it is a very important scheme to allow residents in urban districts to choose a bigger flat. This will enhance a sense of bliss. According to the paper, these 3 sites in Kutong North and Fanning North NDAs won't be ready until 2028-29. So we're talking about 4 years down the road. For Kutong North and Fanning North NDAs, they will be developed in the first phase, and that works have actually commenced. Will the administration explain why it still takes 4 years before the sites are ready, or at least passed onto the URA for the scheme? The second question is this: Is it possible to compress the work schedule about the sites, the 3 sites in Northern Metropolis? When will the flats be ready? Secretary or Chairman, about the 3 sites reserved in Kutong North and Fanning North NDA, site formation won't be completed until 2028-29 according to the timetable. But this tallies with the flat-for-flat scheme of the URA, because after we have completed the review of the compensation mechanism next year, it will apply to other projects of the URA. Now, for the URA, as you know, it starts with a freezing survey to be followed by planning, the issue of acquisition offers, etc. And these procedures would take a few years already. So these sites reserved in the Northern Metropolis will be mature by then. And then apart from the 3 sites in the Northern Metropolis, we earlier reserved 2 sites, or the site in Cheung Kwan O Area 137. This will be ready for URA by 2026. It's a very big site covering some 9 hectares. Next, Mr. Ma Fung Kwok. Thank you. According to the paper, the URA will step up its efforts to promote rehabilitation so as to expand the lifespan of old buildings and reduce the imminent need for urban redevelopment. Now, specific recommendations will be made in 2026 by the URA about extending the lifespan of buildings. This is supposed to be the work of the Development Bureau and the Building Department. Does it mean that there will be a change in the roles and functions of the URA? The second question is that apart from redevelopment, the URA now takes a more prominent role in conservation or preservation of the character of old districts, such as the Central Market. There is a lot of support and recognition among the public. But these projects would affect the resources for the URA. So my question comes back to the same point, and that is about the future roles and functions of the URA. Secretary. Under the urban renewal strategy, there are different elements. Apart from redevelopment, there is also conservation. For old buildings, apart from taking them down, we also attach importance to rehabilitation. Now, the URA is a partner of the government. The Buildings Department is responsible for enforcement when it comes to building maintenance, whereas for support for owners and the subsidies, in recent years we have entrusted the URA to help the government in this regard. So this is another mission. Conservation is also one of the areas under the urban renewal strategy. Let's see if the URA would like to respond to that.
Yes, indeed. Preservation and revitalization are important elements. We keep the character of the district, and in developing the district, we can integrate all the different resources, and all these go hand in hand. It's my turn next. I think I have to really give the URA a big pat on the back. Over the years, they have been doing significant work for Hong Kong. Not only do we have urban renewal, it has been really acceding to a lot of requests, and when there are issues that need addressing, the government would be referring them to the URA, like the urban redevelopment and so on. And the URA is also dealing with the JPM, the Joint Property Management, and I think the URA can be compared to Wong Tai Sin. You would accede to whatever requests that they come their way. They have been doing a lot of significant work for the good or for the betterment of Hong Kong. I was brought up in Kwun Tong. I saw the renewal of Yumen Square, and this is really one of the highlights of the URA. The 7-year rule, we had a lot of comments there. Why do we have the 7-year rule? We all understand that the property prices have been on the rise. Now all buildings are acquired, and people would say no to any offer that would be based on the old prices. And the introduction of the 7-year rule will offer some incentives. It will also make it profitable for the redevelopment because the newly developed properties would be high in prices than 7 years ago. But we have seen a downturn in the property, and with this 7-year rule, the new build would be more expensive than the old stock by a big margin. So I think the key thing is and how can we enhance the value of the new developments so that the URA would have sufficient capital for them to take forward all the other projects. Now, many members raised the issue of the plot ratio. I don't propose to repeat these points, except to say that in the development of the Northern Metropolis, the sector proposes that property plus railway would be a good option. But why is it that the plot ratio is lower in the NT than in the urban areas? Now we are developing new residential areas, new commercial areas. Should we apply the same model? And also the University of Science and Technology, a couple of years ago, and they are applying for permission to build a lab block. The plot ratio was as low as 1.6. They need high density. They need to have student hostels. They need to have all these research and development sites. I think there is a need to relax the requirements and remove the barriers there. Secretary. Chairman, you mentioned the plot ratio in the NDAs in the Northern Metropolis. So we do have different views. Now, for residential units, we don't apply the plot ratio of 10 or higher in the urban areas. And that's with reference to other advanced cities, and they will not be allowing exceeding the high plot ratio. Now, but for individual sites, if they're running out of plot ratio and the projects are not sustainable, then we are prepared to consider the size on a case-by-case basis. In some areas, the plot ratio is high, but the market is telling us they don't want to have this kind of plot ratio. They have economic reason to build less. So we're not really too rigid. We do have the rationale, but I think we can consider them on a case-by-case basis. Mr. Ambrose Lam, the last speaker. 3 minutes, please. Chairman, the URA has issued bonds, and they have secure financial situation, but given the uncertainties in the market, we don't rule out the possibility of further bonds. Now we have the silver bond in the market, and will the URA consider issuing some youth bonds, for instance? The young people will be or can be given some priority over the acquisition of property. You can lock in these potential buyers that they can pay the down payment with the bond holdings, and that would enable the URA to raise finance. Care to comment? Mr. Choi, thank you very much for the comments. We will certainly have a look into this possibility. The young people may not have high income, and they may not have sufficient or spare capacity to buy the bond. All right, so much for this item. Thank you very much, Chairman and Managing Director of the URA. Moving on to the next item, latest progress on Pier Improvement Program. So invite the officials in. We have the another meeting, and I have to move over to that meeting. I hand the chair to the vice chair.
好，咁啊。
All right, officials are all seated. Members who wish to speak, please press the button. There are 5 members on the list. Perhaps I invite the government representative to take us through the paper. Chairman, we are here to bring members up to date on the PIP. We have identified 23 public piers for improvement, and we have achieved some progress. 4 are already commissioned. 6 will be commissioned this year, and there are 3 that will be commissioned next year. So we're here to bring members up to speed. Perhaps I hand you over to the CEDD for a presentation. Good morning. I'm going to bring members up to speed on the latest regarding the PIP. First of all, I'd like to say a little bit about the policy background. Hong Kong doesn't enjoy outing destinations and natural heritage like a country park, a geo park, natural heritage. All these destinations are situated in remote areas without any land access, and people going there will have to use the marine access, and the piers are getting dilapidated. Like some of them are too small, and the water depth is not sufficient for berthing, and the structural integrity is not good enough. In the light of this, in 2017, we launched the Pier improvement program to improve the existing piers in the NT and remote areas. We will enhance the structural safety, improve the facilities like the water depth of the berthing spaces and some other ancillary facilities to enhance accessibility to the outing destinations and natural heritage, and to take care of the local villages who need these piers as the main transportation mode. To take forward this policy, the government has set up a committee on piers to examine the improvement suggestions on public piers in the NT and outlying islands received from different departments and set priority for pier improvement. Membership includes the DEVB, EEB, Tourism Commission, AFCD, HAD, CEDD, and also the TD. The committee will have regard to a whole host of factors in identifying the right piers to be incorporated into the PIP. We will consider the local requests through the HAD and the relevant bodies. We would look at the actual needs of the piers. We look at the accessibility, and we would improve the access to the outlying destinations and natural heritage. The structural safety, given the sheer number of visitors and there might be potential danger, the usage rate, the existing utilization and the potential usage rate. We also have regard to the environmental impacts and land constraints, whether the project would involve a lot of challenging technical issues. After considering all these factors, we have incorporated 23 public piers in the pier improvement program. And some of them are in use, some of them are under construction, some of them are under planning. We have 4 piers that are in use. North Petcock Pier on Lemmer Island, completed in 2022. The former pier make the pier susceptible to the wave action. With the improvement, the users are using these in a safe manner. The second one is the Kaosai Village Pier, completed in 2024. This meets the need of the residents. We have also added some paintings to add character to the pier. The recently completed is the Malu Shui Pier and the Yiyo Pier. There are 9 piers that are under construction, and they are at the final stage. They should be commissioned by the end of the year. Samanchai Chun Pier, Lai Chi Chong Pier, Sam Chong Pier, Leung Shun Wan Pier, Ma Wan Shek Chai Wan Pier, and Ma Wan Chong Pier. There are 3 piers: Tai O Public Pier, Cheung Chao Sai Wan Pier, and Yong Shu Wan Public Pier. The improvement work will be completed by 2026. Piers under planning, there are 10: Lai Chi Wo Market Tung Ping Chao Public Pier, Ma Lam Fat Pier, Yong Shu O Jetty, Yim Tin Ji Pier, Ap Chao Pier, Ping Chao Public Pier, Sokuwan No. 2 Pier, Man Kok Choi Pier, and Tap Mun Pier. The design of the 3 piers are completed, and for the other 7, the feasibility study has been completed and detailed design is underway. I'd like to cite 3 piers as examples to illustrate the improvement work.
First one, the Malu Shui New Ferry Pier. This pier is a major starting point for access to a number of geosites in Geo Park. In the past, for passengers accessing Lai Chi Wo, Cat O, and Ap Chau, they could only rely on landing steps to reach the Kai To. With the commissioning of this new pier in September 2025, 4 berths will be provided through this big pontoon. This can ensure safety for passengers in embarking, disembarking from the ferry. Now, there are also other onshore facilities such as Wi-Fi and electronic screens. The next example is Leung Shun Wan Pier. This is situated in Sai Kung near the reservoir. There is also a hiking trail on the southwestern side. Now, this is also the location for the Tin Hau Temple and Tin Hau Parade ritual. And earlier, in the Sai Kung Hoi Arts Festival, there was also an activity held here. Now, the past Leung Shun Wan Pier did not have sufficient water depth or berths. The number of berths has now been increased from 1 to 4. It will be commissioned next month. The third one is Samun Chai Pier. It's situated inside the typhoon shelter in Tai Po. It's close to the Marine Culture Zone in Yim Tin Chai. The old pier was commissioned in 1972. It was old and dilapidated. The Salmon Chai new pier will be commissioned next month. It provides a number of berths. Using the floating pontoon design, it will also accommodate the needs of smaller fishing vessels. We welcome views and suggestions from members. We'll continue to take forward the PIP in accordance with our work plan and our priorities, and we will kickstart the relevant studies and works at the appropriate junctures. That concludes my presentation. Now, we have 8 members waiting to speak, but we need to vacate the room for the next meeting, so we need to observe the time limit very strictly. Let me read out the names: Chen Yut-ming, Chen Hock-fong, Perry Yu, Wendy Hong, Frankie Yik, Ma Fong Kwok, Bill Tang, and Andrew Lam. We start with Ms. Chen Yut-ming. Now, I support the PIP. My question is about Lai Chi Wo Pier. The Lai Chi Wo Pier is within the blue-green circle of Northern Metropolis. There is the Conservation Office providing subsidy to Lai Chi Wo. There is also another revitalization project undertaken by the Jockey Club. In fact, in the Hong Kong Tourism Board's website, there is an introduction about the history and the culture of the area. Now, on a regular basis, I do take a vessel to conduct visits in Lai Chi Wo. I also lead the delegations there. On weekends, I see quite a lot of visitors. Now, Lai Chi Wo has been revitalized, and we are still waiting for the pier to be redeveloped. I understand that the detailed design has been completed, but no works plan have been drawn up. My question is about the reason why this has not been kickstarted. Has it because of the lack of an imminent need for redevelopment or lack of budget? Now, I'd also like to tell the administration that I have been receiving views from the local community. They'd like the redevelopment project to go ahead as quickly as possible. Since Lai Chi Wo is now one of the attractions in Northern Metropolis and a tourism spot, we should redevelop the pier as quickly as possible. Thank you, member, for the views. Of course, we do acknowledge that Lai Chi Wo is a place with great potential. Is also place frequently visited by tourists, and at the same time we need to consider the resource implications. We accord priority to different pier improvement projects. That is why today we'd like to listen to the views of members. For Lai Chi Wall, we understand the potential. We also understand that there are calls for the improvement works to begin as quickly as possible. So, on the basis of proper allocation of resources, we will actively consider what Ms. Chan said. This is all I can share at the moment. Mr. Chan Hok-fong. I see that many pier improvement projects will take place in the outlying islands. It provides convenience to local residents as well as visitors. I support that as well. But at the same time, I have received a complaint about Padcock Pier on Lamma Island. Oh, it looks very nice. Many visitors would practice fishing, angling at the pier, and it's all right to take a seat there, enjoy the view, and yet it affects local residents in using the pier, especially when they sit on the landing steps, and sometimes they soil the place. So proper management is necessary. I'd like to have the view of the administration. Next, when you build a new pier, you need to consider other supporting facilities. Can we provide a refreshment kiosk, for example? So, can you increase the infrastructure capacity? Provide the place with power, gas, water supply, so that catering joints can be set up there, because it's not easy to run a ferry service nowadays. The third point is about Yongshu Wan. Is there any parking spot for bicycles? Because this is the frequent mode of travel by locals. Right, I think there are two questions: management and supporting facilities, be it parking for bicycles or eating establishments. It's all about supporting facilities. We have different government departments responsible for management. For example, for Padcock Pier on Lamma Island, this falls within the purview of the Transport Department. This is a public place. I think bicycle parking should be properly managed. And let me reassure members that the relevant government departments will be responsible for management of the pier. Now, we also need to have regard to the local circumstances. If you say build a restaurant near a pier, that means sufficient space should be reserved, and this may not be possible at every location. Still, we strive to consider all the supporting facilities possible in each PIP. It's a balancing exercise. If possible, we'll provide more supporting facilities. For example, Wi-Fi, hotspot, solar panels, or even USB charging facilities. As for bicycle parking, you may recall when we earlier applied for funding for Mui Wall facelifting project, we also proposed 100 additional parking spots for bicycles. Now, for some of the piers, they mostly serve visitors coming for hiking or sightseeing. There may not be as great a demand for bicycle parking. So we do give thought to the priority of supporting facilities for different piers. Mr. Perry Yu. Now, I welcome the PIP. It was launched in 2017. And these projects have gradually become mature with the joint efforts across sectors. My question is about priority of projects. Like Ms. Chen Yut-ming said, for Lai Chi Wall Pier, we started urging the government to take it forward even before the pandemic. And now only the detailed design has been completed. And it's a great location for island hopping with Ap Chau, Cat O, Tong Ping Chau, or the gradual opening up of Sha Tau Kok. There is great potential to implement island hopping here. Now, about the improvement of piers, my question is on design standards. How are standards drawn up? Some piers do not have a lot of footfall. These piers might be a mid-stop. So how do you draw up standards for improvement? The other point is that according to the policy address, there will also be an additional pier on the southern side of Hong Kong Island, as well as Changsha in Lantau. So my question is whether there is a comprehensive plan. When it comes to piers, you need to consider how they are related, how they can serve visitors as well as locals in order to meet the commuting needs. And about Sai Kung, if you go further east after passing Kola Wan, you can go all the way to East Dam, and then there is no pier to serve the area. So we consider providing a pier there. It may not be a big pier, but at least if you provide a pier there, it will greatly enhance accessibility and enhance users' experience. Thank you, Chair. About Lai Chi Wo, of course, we're here to consult members, and we've heard your views loud and clear. You'd like to take that forward as quickly as possible. Now, about other pier improvement projects or new piers, we have made improvements for Ma Liu Shui. We have increased the number of piers to 4, and for some other piers, we only provide an additional berth. So as far as government departments are concerned, we consider the potential and the future demand. And we also discuss with different stakeholders, such as hiking groups, as well as the tourism sector, in considering how many berths should be provided. So we tap the collective wisdom. You also mentioned a new pier for Sai Kung East. Well, we're not going to rule that out, but we need to consider the overall environment. Some vessels may need waters that are deep enough, and we also need a coastline long enough to provide a pier, say 100 meters. So at the same time, we need to make sure that there won't be any negative impact to the natural environment. We will actively consider the suggestion. Right, Chairman, let me supplement that you can deploy new technology and also do a better head count at piers. Exactly, thank you. We have solar panels, so we have the prerequisites to do something like that. Dr. Wendy Hong. PIP was introduced in 2017, covering 23 pier improvement projects. It's been 8 years, and so far only 4 have been completed. That means 2 projects a year. That's not a satisfactory progress. I'd like to know if the administration has conducted any review. Is there any KPI? Is there any time frame for the completion of these projects? Second question, the policy address has proposed to develop yacht tourism, yacht economy and tourism, and there will be 600 additional berths for yachts to promote high-end yacht tourism. My question is, with the 23 pier improvement projects, will they be able to cope with the increase in demand because of that? The third point is that Hong Kong is a city surrounded by waters. So under the tourism is everywhere concept, we should be able to create 23 tourism IPs on the basis of these piers. As for the projects that have been completed, now it seems that they are mostly functional. You haven't given regard to the optics or aesthetics. Say for the Blake Pier in Hong Kong, it carries great historical value. In Tuen Mun, there is also another seaside pier that has become an outdoor shooting location for films. There is also another pier in Discovery Bay. After a facelift, it has won an award as a privately developed pier. So we have a lot of examples in other countries. These piers have become the city IPs as well, such as such as Clark here in Singapore, as well as the pumpkin installation in Japan. So in taking forward pier improvement, will the government consider improving the aesthetic design so that they can become a check-in spot?
Chairman, we have completed 4. Now this is October. There are going to be 6 more that will be completed. 3 will be coming on stream next year, first half of next year, in fact. I must admit that with pier improvement, it is not like the work in the urban areas. I've been to Dong Ping Chau, and it would take 1 hour to be there, even with the fastest ferry. So there are some constraints there. Now, second, the yacht economy. And the locations are different. Now, these pier improvement program, we are talking about the rural areas, the remote areas. Now, for yacht economy, we talk about Lamma, Aberdeen, and Hong Ham. So we will not be getting in the way of these places. Now, with the improvement, I'm sure that would be contribute to island hopping. With regard to the design, that these are in rural areas, we have to blend in with the environment, like the one in Khao Sai Chau. We have been communicating with the villagers about the cover. As some said that we should make it less complicated because that would be detrimental to the vibe. Now, for Khao Sai Chau, we have commissioned an artist to put some murals there to beautify the environment. So we have to strike a balance between all these different elements, although we have to bear in mind the aesthetics there. Mrs. Regina Ip has pressed the button. I think I have to draw a line under her. Next, Mr. Frankie Yik, please. Chairman, this peer improvement program was brought up in 2017, and we were really very supportive of this. Like Dr. Wendy Hong said, over the past 9 years, we have completed only 13. The progress seems to be leaving a lot to be desired. Under Secretary, you talked about the transportation, and it would take a long time to go there. Now, our trade is really running out of business. I hope that you will give them more business. And I also like to follow up on what Mr. Perry Yu said. The director said that tourism is everywhere. In our constituency, there are so many kaitos and pleasure craft. In Sai Kung, there are many beautiful islands. They hope that there would be some landing facilities, and they wouldn't be like the sophisticated one that we were shown. I think we can have some really simple landing facilities. Electricity is simple. We can have the solar panel. Wi-Fi is important. because if anything untoward were to happen, they can seek help. Sanitation, sanitary facilities. I'm not sure how you can do it. It would be enough to have these facilities. People just pop over there to have a stroll, to enjoy the natural scenery. Can you also cover these as well? Under Secretary, thank you very much, Mr. Yik. We have 23 on the list. We are prioritizing them according to resources. For new location, we are prepared to consider them. We will bear in mind the constraints and how we can address them. So if Mr. Yik has any suggestions, please, by all means. As to other facilities, Wi-Fi, power supply, we will try our best. Sanitation, in some piers, we may not have enough spaces. But for the 23 public piers for improvement, there are only 4 that are bereft of a public toilet. So we will certainly bear in mind all these as suitable facilities there. Mr. Ma Fung Kwok, Chairman, thank you. I am all in support of the PIP, but my feeling is why the slow progress. When you prioritize, do you prioritize in accordance with the population or what? Or what factors do you take into account? Now, these piers are there to facilitate access to outing destinations and natural heritage. We're going to have Yim Tin Ji and Tap Mun Pier on the list, and they are heavily utilized, but we are still on the drawing board without any detailed implementation plan. Now, for these 2 piers, they are so heavily utilized. How safe are they? Is there an urgency to accelerate the progress? Now, for these popular piers, do you have any special consideration to accelerate the implementation? Under Secretary, Chairman. Now, for the 23 piers, before we had the PIP, we also improved the piers. The Director Audit also examined this. Basically, we look at the utilization. In 2017, we came up with the PIP. As we said in the PowerPoint presentation, we have included many different elements. We consider the tourism element. So for these 23 public piers incorporated into the list, other than 3, all of them have to do with tourism. So this is an important consideration. One of the important considerations that we have. You talked about Tap Mun and Yim Tin Ji. Now we identify the structural safety as in our prioritization process. We have to prioritize because of the constraint in resources. So for the 10 that have yet to be undertaken, that we will have regard to public views or members' views in deciding on the priority. We have 100 or so piers in Hong Kong. All of them are under constant repair to make sure that they are structurally sound. In the interest of time, I extend the meeting a little bit. If you don't have an objection, Mr. Bill Tank, I've been a councillor of the island district for more than a decade, and these piers are terribly important. And many of them have to do with the outlying islands. It will help with livelihood. It will help with tourism. The issue of in front of us is public finance. So the government may not be prioritizing the piers as much as they should. And there may be some piers that are relegated to a lower position, and that much we all appreciate. But we do need to have new mindset regarding the piers for which funding has yet to be devoted. We should try to make improvement as much as we can. There are 2 suggestions, if I may. the government is adopting a market-oriented approach to stimulate tourism. So I'm wondering whether we can bring in the private sector to deal with these markets. Of course, there can be some incentives for them, like the entire pier can be used for commercial display, and these are remote areas, and we can offer them some right to lease the pier in some ways, and then you can bring in the private sector entities. Would the government consider this? Second, in the piers, there are so many ancillary facilities, and we may not need to devote billions or hundreds of millions of dollars, or maybe we can just improve the cover and the power supply. Now, you mentioned Under Secretary, you mentioned Tung Ping Chow. If you take the Kaito, it would take more than an hour. It would be a pretty long way. There are 5 indigenous villages there, and there is an urgency for this to be improved as much as possible. At least a cover should be provided. And there are some corporates that are prepared to offer donation. That would be more flexible. The government can do their bit. The corporates can also do their bit there. And with this kind of innovative collaboration, it would be a good idea. I'm wondering whether the government would be receptive to this. Now, Tung Ping Chow, in Shenzhen, there is the Nan'o Bay, and I think there is a lot of catching up to do there. Under Secretary? Well, other than the government, can we also adopt a multi-pronged approach? I think this is well worth pursuing. I would be proactively looking at this. That's why we went on a site visit to Tung Ping Chow with Mr. Bill Tang. That the recreational ecological corridor in the southern Lantau is what we looked at as well, and in rural areas it may not be a good idea. Now we are also looking at the option suggested by Mr. Bill Tang. The TD, the CEDD, and HAD can sit together to come up with ways to improve the piers in a more innovative way. Mrs. Regina, many members said that the pier improvement is excruciatingly slow. There is an item which is not there, and that is the Mui Wo Pier. The first phase was in 2014, and you have the second phase, stage 1, stage 2, phase 1, and 2023 started the second stage, the third stage. The third phase is still under review. I know you are covering a lot of elements, but I mean, it's been taking you more than a decade, which is really a bit odd. Why the slow progress? Second, this may not be in the paper, but I'd like to raise this. The southern Lantau will be developed into an ecological recreational area. The government should provide the marine access, definitely marine access, because it would be hard for you to widen the roads there. Why don't you make it more flexible and the progress there? Under Secretary, thanks very much. We were Pier. I remember we sought the funding the year before last. It's been 10 years now. We are doing different parts of the pier. We sought the funding in 2023 precisely to improve the pier. If I recall, it would take about 4 to 5 years. Other than the Mui Wo Pier, we also have to improve the Cookfood Center in the vicinity and the bicycle parks. We have to build the facilities, and relocate the old facilities. So we are doing this in a slow progress. As to Cheungsha, the southern Lantau, we have just completed the EOI, and we are contemplating introducing the market forces to build the Cheungsha Pier. We do have the intention of putting a pier there so that there would be marine access to southern Lantau. So going forward, in the South Lantau recreational and ecological corridor, we will have some ideas we will be sharing with members at the right time.
My question for the Undersecretary is about Phase 3 of the Mui War project. The website says the scope is being reviewed. So is the review in progress? When will it be completed? I know there is a lot on your plate, but it's just a small place in the mainland. The whole precinct would be ready in a decade. So what is your review about, and when will it be completed? Now for Phase 2, it covers the pier as well, the pier plaza, as well as the bus stop. Now, for the third phase, it covers also the Olympic Trail in Silvermine Bay. So that's not really small in scale. We'll do our utmost. It's also about the allocation of resources and giving priority to projects. We note Mrs. Ip's views, and we'll go back and review the situation. We will strive to complete the second phase first, and that is the pier as well as the plaza. I believe this will give a lift to the environment in general. I'm told by the Secretariat that we must adjourn the meeting by 10:45 for another meeting in the same room. So I will allow 2 more to speak, and then we need to wrap up. Mr. Andrew Lam, Deputy Chair. Now, when the PIP was announced, we hadn't floated other ideas such as tourism is everywhere and in-depth local tours, etc. So the PIP is now providing support to these new ideas, and this is exactly the right path. But at the same time, other members talked about the design or standards. Now, I don't think it's easy if we go by the higher standards. So is it possible to adopt a simpler approach in relation to some of the locations in order to meet the medium to short-term needs? Say, Lai Chi Wall, the original pier has been taken down. The new pier has yet to be built. Can we have a barge berth there as an interim measure? Because in other places, the temporary pontoons and barges will also be deployed. So apart from the new pier to be built, we need to have regard to how imminent the issue is, as well as the overall environment. A flexible design should be deployed so as to help us meet the needs for tourism and other aspects. I thank Mr. Lam for the views. This is rather pragmatic because if we could scale back the certain projects, make it less costly, for example, it would be easy for the project to go ahead. Of course, we need to talk to the local community. There are 10 projects still in the pipeline. I hope by taking this approach, we can implement them as quickly as possible. Next, my turn. Of course, we support the pier improvement. Government departments have been making progress. The improved piers will benefit locals as well as visitors, so I definitely support the PIP. In fact, I would like to echo what Deputy Chair just now. There have been a lot of discussions in this council and in the community on yacht economy as well as island hopping tours. Hong Kong enjoys unique advantages. We have a very long coastline. Together with the 200 plus islands and their respective coastlines, we have a total of 1,000 kilometers of coastline. So we stand out from many other cities in the world. However, many outlying islands are not equipped with any facility. So you can only watch from afar. There is no landing facility. We also need to do more to promote yacht tourism. And we need some new thinking. Apart from redeveloping old piers, we need to take a supply-driven approach. If we want to develop tourism, we need to improve accessibility. If we want to take forward island hopping, this should be our priority. So it's not so much a question. I just want to make my comment, and that is in terms of policy, we need to take things at the macro level. We need to consider maximizing the use of natural resources to promote tourism. Through these developments, we can benefit the general public, and we can make Hong Kong a more livable place. Chairman, I'm fully on board with you. And like I said just now, for the 10 piers to be improved under the PIP, we will consider suitably scaling back the project so as to expedite the improvement projects. We don't go for 100 marks, we can go for 80 marks, and this is exactly what we do under PIP. It's not just about an increasing capacity. We give priority to projects with potential to support tourism, such as enhancing accessibility to natural heritage. So if there is potential to support the tourism aspect, like the chair said, I will take a supply-led approach. Thank you. So that wraps up the discussion of this item. I thank the government officials for attending. Next, AOB. This is the last meeting of the panel on development within the 2025 legislative session. In this session, this panel held 10 meetings. I'd like to give my heartfelt gratitude to members and the administration for their active participation in the panel meetings. Next week at the council meeting of the 22nd of October 2025, this panel will submit a report on the work in the 2025 legislative session. So if there is no other business, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.